Lastly, but certainly not least, as we ring out in the refrain that is said among people across the world and Puerto Ricans across the world, yo sí soy boricua.
Giant robotic tripods could be vaporizing New Jersey. Democrats would point out how the death lasers were disproportionately affecting low-income communities and people of color. And AOC would tweet, "Stop demonizing the Martian X community."
Imagine Bill Maher taking on AOC's comments the way a half-tipsy English teacher might grade essays in high school. What you'd get is equal parts comedy gold and brutal reality checks. Tonight, he isn't just poking fun at her. He's shredding her grand visions, lofty promises, and political ambitions. His warning? There's no clear policy roadmap here. Just a word, salad drowning in extra dressing. Stick around as Maher breaks down why AOC's brand of political talk feels less like serious debate and more like karaoke without the lyrics.
What do you think are on the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary?
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC.
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't sustain itself, but right now they have no leader. Okay? But this is the thing the Republican Party has to understand too. Both parties lost.
If you're enjoying this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really makes a difference. Now, it seems the Democratic Party is at it again. Watching them is like seeing someone touch a hot stove, get burned, and then go right back to it, insisting, this time will be different. Remember 2024 when Kamala Harris led the charge? That was a masterclass in how to run a campaign with zero spark. Bill Maher waved the red flags back then, practically shouting, this is a disaster waiting to happen.
Country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid.
But the party insisted on serving up Harris to the public like cold oatmeal nobody asked for, and we all saw how that played out. Her awkward laughs and jumbled head-scratching statements drove half the country to switch off their TVs for nearly 4 years. And now, because the DNC seems to collect bad choices the way kids collect Pokemon cards, their latest rare find is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the new shiny thing they can't wait to show off.
At an AOC Bernie Sanders rally in Idaho last month, someone threw a Palestinian flag over an American flag, and the crowd erupted in approval. What should have happened after that is one of the adults on stage should have told their young, loyal followers, this is not a symbol of freedom. This is.
She's the progressives' favorite TikTok star, the queen of social media likes, and a lawmaker who can turn a simple sentence into a verbal car crash faster than a rookie driver at Daytona. That's right, AOC, now being floated as the Democratic Party's shining hope for 2028. But Maher isn't buying it. He's practically pleading with Democrats not to get lost in this fantasy. Having seen plenty of political mirages over the years, he knows exactly where this road leads. Straight into another electoral wasteland.
An 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team. And the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, we gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why. Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stop seeing your candidate as their voice.
What's almost comical is how predictable the pattern has become. Every time a fresh politician builds a fan base, the left treats it like the second coming. They swoon over Instagram posts, TikTok clips, and roaring rally crowds, forgetting that none of it matters if you can't actually win elections. Maher, with his trademark grin, pointed this out. Instead of focusing on candidates who inspire voters to show up at the polls, Democrats obsess over who looks good on stage. It's the same old story. Politics packaged like Coachella. Sure, Bernie can get cheers at a festival, but that doesn't mean the country will hand him the presidency. And that's where the hype train for AOC starts running out of steam. Once people look past her Instagram lives and actually listen to her words, the cracks show fast. She doesn't just stumble now and then. She torpedoes her own credibility on live TV. One day, she's claiming unemployment happens because people work too many jobs. The next, she's trying to reinvent economics as though she just skimmed a BuzzFeed quiz on supply and demand. That's what happens when you try to play chess but mistake the pieces for checkers.
We're getting the big crowds right now are AOC and Bernie Sanders. They're going around the country. Thank you, there's that same guy. I call him the always wrong guy. I'm kidding. Okay, but I feel like, big crowds, again, the shiny object that the Democrats chase it's not about the big crowds that come out to you when you're talking in a festival or wherever they are. I think it's because I think Bernie showed up at Coachella. That must have been fun for them.
Maher's frustration is obvious because beneath the flashy one-liners and fiery statements, there's nothing of real substance. It's chaos dressed up as leadership, spectacle standing in for strategy. If the end game is to become a social media influencer, then AOC's obsession with viral clapback moments makes sense. But if the goal is governing, the absence of a serious plan is glaring. Maybe catastrophe has become the brand. Just look at how quickly AOC's meteoric rise began to crumble. When your political act makes Cory Booker look like the most mature voice in the room, something has gone very, very wrong. This is where Bill Maher steps in, not to be cruel, but to be blunt. He's the guy holding up the mirror, pointing out the absurdity for what it is. He sees the iceberg straight ahead, while the Democratic ship keeps partying on deck, oblivious to the crash that's coming.
I'm American now. I'm here. Be my lawyer, not the lawyer for the migrants showing up in my backyard. Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales.
Maher's point couldn't be clearer. TikTok clout and Twitter retweets don't translate into the kind of votes that actually win elections. And let's be honest, AOC's rocky relationship with reality isn't the only issue. Her brand of progressive politics is starting to drift into self-parody. Maher recalled rallies where chaos took center stage, like the moment a Palestinian flag was draped over an American one and the crowd erupted as if it were a highlight reel. The obvious reaction should have been, maybe disrespecting the very country you're trying to lead isn't the smartest move. But instead, silence. And that silence spoke volumes. More than half the audience cringed, and Maher admitted he did too, like a parent yelling from the car window at school pickup, wearing Crocs and not realizing how ridiculous it looks. That's the kicker. If you're embarrassed by America, don't be surprised when America feels embarrassed by you. That's Maher's genius. His message is simple, but it cuts deep.
I said it before, wokeness is not an extension of liberalism anymore. It's more often taking something so far that it becomes the opposite. Teaching kids not to hate or judge those who are different? Great. Proud we got there. All for that. But at a certain point, inclusion becomes promotion. And contrary to current progressive dogma, children aren't miniature adults wise beyond their years. They're morons.
This isn't about patriotism versus criticism. No nation is flawless. But if your entire platform is built on sneering at the very country you want to lead, good luck convincing voters you're the one to make it better. The irony is almost unbearable. Wealthy politicians raised in the comforts of the system spend their days tearing it apart, while immigrants risk deserts, oceans, and everything they have just to chase the American dream. Complaining about the freedoms that give you the right to complain, that's entitlement at its peak. And then comes the tirade against capitalism. AOC and her followers talk about it as if it's some monstrous dragon keeping everyone in chains while romanticizing socialism like it's the trendy new dish on the menu. What they conveniently ignore is that every nation that tried it, Venezuela, Cuba, the Soviet Union, ended in collapse. Yet AOC's camp insists this time they've cracked the code. Maher's warning here is obvious. Democrats aren't just fighting Trump. They're fighting against hard reality. And when Republicans propose even a halfway reasonable policy, the left treats it as if it's toxic waste.
All leaders in the Democratic Party keep encouraging and not rebuking the idea that America is cringe and the people who run Gaza are great. The Democrats are doomed. Alyssa Slotkin's right. Liberals are weak and woke, especially the white ones, and they indulge all sorts of nonsense from their kids. So talk to your children and remind them you don't really want to live like your heroes in Hamas. All the you do all day, it was all made.
Its creation wasn't about serving the people. It was fueled by xenophobia, energy independence, border panic, race politics, tax breaks, and climate denial. And here's the kicker. Even if a policy does help working families, the left dismisses it outright if it originates from the other side. That's not a governing strategy. That's ideological suicide. The deeper problem Maher hammers on is perspective, or the complete lack of it. Too many progressives see America not as a flawed nation striving to improve, but as some eternal villain irredeemable to the core. They sneer at patriotism as if it's code for bigotry, scoff at the flag, and act like only Midwestern flyover types love their country. But here's the reality. Millions of Americans know the difference between oppression and inconvenience. They don't sit online rage tweeting about how awful America is. They live the grind. They understand what others endure just to get here. That perspective alone exposes the progressive outrage machine as both entitled and embarrassingly out of touch. And the sting of Maher's critique? It's not coming from the right. This isn't a Fox News host dunking on socialism. It's one of their own pointing out the rot.
There is a little, I understand a little, I told you so from the people on the border.
I mean, I'm from Texas. I actually think it's a little bit even worse than what you're saying. Because not only were they saying, we're sanctuary cities, we provide housing to everyone, we'll guarantee health care and education, but definitely don't come here. But they were also saying, if you're in Texas and don't want that, you're racist, you're a bad person. And now that they're having just the smallest fraction, there were 2 million border crossings last year. New York, which is by far the largest number, has 100.
This is Bill Maher we're talking about, a guy who made a career out of torching Trump, mocking Republicans, and cheerleading for liberal causes. So when he turns his fire on progressives and AOC, it hits different. It's like your favorite teacher suddenly saying, "You're the class clown ruining the lesson." Brutal, because it comes from inside the house. And Maher isn't pulling punches. By flirting with AOC as their 2028 ticket, Democrats aren't just risking another defeat. They're lighting the fuse for a political wildfire. Voters are exhausted watching the party spin the wheel of identity politics while ignoring the basics. Economic stability, public safety, and maybe even liking the country you're trying to lead. Maher sees it clearly. People want leaders with vision and backbone, not influencers chasing clout with TikTok sound bites. They want plans, not slogans. They want someone who doesn't confuse shouting with leadership. And the more AOC speaks, the more obvious it is she's not that person. In this analogy, Maher is the lifeguard on the beach, blowing the whistle as Democrats sprint straight into a riptide. The party is on the verge of yet another self-inflicted disaster. And Maher is yelling like the only sober guy at the party.
Would sell this country for $1 if it meant lining his own pockets and greasing the palms of his Wall Street friends. And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a 2-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from under the boots of greed, trembling on.
Meanwhile, Democrats are too busy chasing viral clips to notice the iceberg ahead. And if history is any guide, Maher will be right. Again, they'll wake up stunned, wondering how they managed to lose the most winnable election in history. Because here's the truth. AOC isn't the whole problem. The problem is the ideology she represents, a worldview that confuses activism with governance, outrage with leadership, and likes on social media with actual political capital. Maher's not guessing. He's seen this movie before. He knows how it ends, and nobody asked for a sequel. Yet here we are. The choice is simple. Democrats can keep pretending AOC is the future, or they can listen to the guy waving the torch, yelling about the fire on deck, ignore him, and 2028 won't just be another loss. It'll be a punchline Maher keeps telling until they finally get it. And the beauty of it, he doesn't even have to work hard. He just points out the obvious while the Democratic brain trust rallies around AOC like they've discovered fire. Really? This is your plan? Maher doesn't need fireworks or gimmicks to expose the absurdity. He just asks the question and the answer is embarrassing. The crowd claps like trained seals at SeaWorld, convinced this time the trick will work. Spoiler, it won't. Because AOC has perfected the art of saying a lot without actually saying anything.
First time, I think I'm getting to where Ronald Reagan was with Tip O'Neill. You know, the old story is, well, they could just hash it out and just really come at each other and then go have a beer. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to have a beer with AOC or
that
Joe
would
Biden.
be the weirdest bar in the world. You think the Star Wars cantina was weird? Imagine you walk into a bar and just Glenn Beck and AOC.
Even she looks shocked at the end of her own sentences, like she's just hearing them for the first time. Every interview becomes a language obstacle course, plenty of passion, zero accuracy. Maher notices, voters notice, and anyone with more than 2 brain cells rubbing together notices. But according to the DNC, this is their ticket to victory. That's not a strategy. That's a suicide mission. Because while Americans may scroll for sound bites, they still vote for stability. They want someone who doesn't see the presidency as a personal platform or a TikTok series. Maher is practically begging them, don't confuse online applause with real political momentum. Instagram likes aren't electoral votes. If they ignore him, 2028 won't be a contest. It'll be a comedy of errors, the kind where the laugh track comes from Republicans watching Democrats torch themselves on stage. AOC may think she's rewriting the script, but Maher is the one holding up the scoreboard. And if Democrats don't pay attention, that scoreboard is going to show another big ugly L, all in the name of enthusiasm.